Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Knicks Daily here. Today we're going to be previewing the New York Knicks offseason. It's currently June 6th when I'm recording this, which means that the NBA Finals is going to be underway tonight. I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, I couldn't care less about the finals. The Knicks were absolutely robbed. Of course, they had all these injuries, and then in Game 7, they came up short, which is expected because to that point, I mean, we're looking at, what, 6-7 guys since December for the Knicks that have underwent surgery that ended their season. I mean, it's just so unfortunate, but at the end of the day, the healthiest team, I guess, wins in the playoffs, and for the Knicks, that's going to be their main goal. There has been some talks about potentially moving on from Julius Randle. Now, the Knicks did make it clear that they don't want to trade Julius Randle, but if they bring in a star player, they might have to. So, for example, Devin Booker, if he makes his way to New York, or Kevin Durant, the Knicks definitely could look into trading Randle, and they would have to trade Randle. You're not getting one of those two guys without giving up at least some type of good player, right? And then there'd be draft picks in that and maybe some other players. But overall, I don't think the Knicks need to make a move like that. I don't think the Knicks need Kevin Durant or Devin Booker to win a championship. I think that if the Knicks had been healthy, they would have went to the finals. I get the Celtics were, what, a 64-win team. They were top 5 in offensive defense. But what I saw in the fourth and final matchup between these two teams was that the Knicks absolutely dominated the Celtics. They were up 30 points going into the fourth quarter, and they decided to rest some starters, and the Celtics kind of came back. But that's the thing about the Knicks, is they had a team that was built to win. They have Jalen Brunson, who's a #1 option on a finals team, goes out there in the playoffs, averages over 30 a game on pretty efficient splits as well. True shooting was up there. Brunson was getting to the free throw line. He was being aggressive. Dante DiVincenzo on the screen right there is knocking down a 3-ball. He was a guy that elevated his game in the playoffs. Josh Hart elevated his game. The Villanova Wildcats, they won a championship together, man. This is a team that went out there and all they did was win, and they brought that same mindset to the Knicks this year. But really what it came down to was Isaiah Hartenstein and OG Anunoby, the guys that are on the thumbnail, the guys that we're mainly going to be talking about in this video. So Hartenstein and OG are free agents. If the Knicks lose both of these guys, I think they're going to be in definitely some serious trouble. It's not to say that they can't replace them, but OG, his impact on the Knicks cannot be overstated. The Knicks were a pretty bad defensive team before the trade, and then when they got him, they were #1 in defense. And then in terms of Isaiah Hartenstein, this is a guy who can pass the basketball, he can rebound, he hustles, he's very quick. He's almost not like a center. I mean, I wouldn't classify Hartenstein as a center. I would more call him maybe like a forward or a big. I mean, he's about, what, 6'10", 6'11". I don't think he's that big by any means, but he's listed as a 7-footer on ESPN. He doesn't move like that though. He's very quick, and you look at what he did in Mitchell Robinson's absence is just keep the Knicks afloat. His ability to go out there and give you 9 boards a game, 9 points, 3.2 assists, 1.1 steals, and 1.2 blocks in 64 starts, and that includes the playoffs. The thing with Hartenstein is that he's expected to get anywhere from 80 to 100 million in free agency, and the reason why that's an issue for the Knicks is because they can only offer him, I want to say 72 million. 72 million would be plenty. Oh yeah, 72. It is 72.5 million over 4 years, and that seems very generous. But with the way that the NBA has become, there is going to be a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder that can and will offer more than that. So it's asking Hartenstein, do you want to take a pay cut to remain with the Knicks? You're still getting 72.5 million. Do you want to leave and go to another team? Or do you want to sign a 1-year deal so that way next season the Knicks can offer you up to a max contract? Now, of course, Isaiah Hartenstein's not getting a max contract with the Knicks, nor can they afford that. But if he does truly want to remain a Knick but still get paid, like I said, he could sign a 1-year deal. It would be a big 1-year deal, and then next season they would extend him, or he could just take, again, a 4-year $72.5 million contract and remain with the Knicks. He's getting paid. He stays with his teammates from last season. The chemistry clearly was at an all-time high for the Knicks, at least since I've been watching them. We'll have to wait and see. It's only June 6th. We're a while away before that decision is going to be made. But looking at Mitchell Robinson, he's a potential trade candidate. Maybe he stays. I don't know. Hartenstein and Mitch, to me, together could be very dangerous, but the Knicks just don't have as much money as you guys probably think. Josh Hart, Randall, Brunson, Dante, McBride, I mean, these guys alone are adding up to 102.5 million. and then you add in Hartenstein, who would be around 16 million, OG at around 35 million. That's 154 million for 8 players, which means that the Knicks only have 18 million from the tax with 6 spots to fill. Now, the good thing for the Knicks is they have 2 first-round picks, and they can hand out some minimum contracts. When you win 50 games, you play in New York, a lot of players are going to want to be a part of what you're building. We just saw Alec Burks come in, wasn't making too much money, and he ends up playing very well against the Pacers. We could see another veteran have some sort of the same impact. Jericho Sims is making about $2.5 million, so the Knicks can definitely do it. But if I'm James Dolan and I truly do want my team to win, you're going to have to go over the tax, the threshold, because I would like Bojan Bogdanovic to remain a Knick, which means that he's going to be, I believe, 17 million at the top of my head, or was it 19 million? I think it might be 19 million. If the Knicks do trade him or lose him, then they'd have to pay 2 million of his contract. But let's just say that he stays, right? So already you're going to have to be in a threshold to pay him. But he's a guy that when he was out there proved that he could shoot, that he could knock down big time shots. That game against the Kings stands out to me. Him and Burks came up big. I mean, Bojan's exactly what the Knicks need off the bench. Like, the Knicks do not need more defensive players right now. They need guys that can shoot the basketball. That's what they were missing against the Pacers. Not to say that the defense was amazing, because the Pacers were shooting at essentially a historic clip. I mean, Game 7, they historically were the best shooting team ever. But that's also because the Knicks just were completely out of bodies. They were gassed. They had nothing left in the tank. That's why the Knicks' best bet was obviously to win Game 3, because that way they would have been up 3-0, and no team's ever lost that, or win Game 6, but they failed to do both of those. But it is what it is. It's just one of those things that you can't control. You can't control injuries. Sure, you can play guys less, but the Knicks, when they played their guys less, were at risk of losing games, right? Jalen Brunson, Hart, Devo, like, these guys had to be out there playing because there just wasn't any serviceable players behind them. I mean, McBride and Achua, Burks and Bojan are good players, but they're not going to give you the same level of impact that the starters gave. But that's also something that the Knicks can improve on. Is a team like the Pacers, for example, had consistently 10 guys, I would say 8, 9, 10 guys that they could put out there. And I would say the talent is always going to beat depth. But I think the Knicks already have a lot of talent. It's just they need a little bit more depth. They need to be more lenient with that, because Josh Hart was playing 43, 44 minutes a game in the playoffs. That's just not sustainable. Jalen Brunson ended up dealing with a couple of injuries throughout the playoffs and finally broke his hand. It was a really unfortunate playoffs for the Knicks, but it's still something to build off of. This was a team that before hiring Coach Tibb could not even come close to winning 50 games. They were consistently winning less than 40% of their games, and now you're talking about winning 50 of 82. So a lot of optimism for the Knicks. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Hartenstein, with OG, with that 24th and 25th selection. Alec Burks is an unrestricted free agent. Precious Achiuwa is a restricted free agent. If you guys don't know what that means, unrestricted means he can sign with anyone. Restricted means that the Knicks can match any offer from an opposing team. So don't expect anytime soon for Achiuwa to be brought back or not, because teams are going to have a lot of time to figure out what they feel is good value. But another thing that isn't really getting talked about too much is Coach Thibodeau. He's due for an extension. Monte Williams signed a 6-year, $73 million contract. Greg Popovich, $80 million over 5 years. Steve Kerr added 2 more deals at $35 million. So that's $17.5 million a year. Eric Spoelstra, $120 million over 8 years. I personally think that the best coach in the NBA is Eric Spoelstra. In my opinion, it's very debatable. I think Greg Popovich definitely deserves some recognition for that. But Coach Tibb, his expected value is around $12 million a year. So you could see $48 million over 4 years would be very reasonable. That would be good value, especially considering that the Knicks have a 55% win rate with Coach Tibb, 175 and 143. That's 6th in franchise history. But also moving forward, Coach Tibb, he has changed the culture, the identity of this team. The Knicks at one point were a team that nobody wanted to go to, that nobody wanted to play for. World's most famous arena was all they had going for them, but outside of that, there really wasn't anything else. But now the Knicks are a tough physical team, much like they were in the 90s, the early 2000s. And yeah, the Knicks had 6 consecutive sub 40% win rate seasons before Coach Tibb. I mean, you could argue that he deserves even more money than that, but I'm not complaining if they can get him at $12 million a year, because that would be good value. But this past season, 50 wins, number 2 seed. They get to the second round. They force a Game 7 despite all of the adversity that they dealt with. Jalen Brunson proved that he's a superstar. They did it without Julius Randle. If Julius Randle had been on the court, the Knicks go to the conference finals. Now they still would not have beaten the Celtics in my opinion because they were just missing so many bodies. And but like at the end of the day, who really knows, right? I mean, Julius Randle's impact on the Knicks is super big because he can rebound, he can score, he commands double teams, and he gives a lot of open looks for Brunson. If you guys go and watch the Knicks playoff highlights from last year, if you ever get some time, Brunson was getting significantly more open looks because of Julius Randle. He loves to get in the post, and he's a very capable and willing passer. The Knicks didn't have that. There was no one that could create, that could score outside of Brunson consistently at least, and that was the game plan for the Pacers was let's get the ball out of Brunson's hands and make someone else beat him or beat us. And Dante DiVincenzo at times did a good job of it, but again, consistently in a 7-game series, the Knicks did not have anyone. So when Randall's out there, when OG's out there, the Knicks prove that they can beat anyone because they blew the Nuggets out by 44, the Sixers with Embiid, the Timberwolves. I mean, the Knicks were beating some very good teams, and yeah, just all came to a crashing halt, obviously with the injuries. But really outside of that, I think I covered just about everything that I wanted to.